All right, here's a little walkthrough of the car I've been building for the past couple years. We have a 1UZ from a 1992 at LS400 with two eBay turbos. They're about GT28 size with T3 flange on there. And then a CD09 350Z transmission with a Collins adapter on there. And front sump from the LS. The SCs are rear sump. Doesn't really matter too much, but that's what this one is. The lighting's kind of hard to see in there, but there's that. And then this is a Lotus 7 chassis, from the Haynes manual. So it's 46 inches wide in the center here with 1-inch square tube construction, 16 gauge. And then you come through over here. It's actually a little bit shorter than the normal construction. It's a little bit low to make room under the turbos there. And started construction on the body. These are all scrap pieces of metal from an auto body shop because sheet metal is expensive right now. But this one's a Toyota Tundra. I think this is Tundra too. This is a Chevy Trax. It's all pretty rough on the bodywork, but I figure I roll all these panels out, do the best I can, and then I can, get it pretty close and then run over it with a little bit of filler and it'll be better than nothing. So it's, with the chassis, these are designed for smaller engines and lighter cars. So I've skinned the whole thing in 18 gauge steel to try and keep some semblance of rigidity in there. Normally they have a rail like this running from the safety cell over here, runs from right there to the front over here, and I don't have that, so there's just no room with the way the engine's jammed in here. So we have a 3/4 inch square tube going from the bottom of the footwell up to this joint, then from that joint down to the engine mount. You can't really see it, but it goes down to the engine mount, and then on this side it's missing because the alternator, but on the other side it goes from there and then comes back up to meet. So it's sort of a lattice work coming around and from there up to that joint, back down to the engine mount, and then back up to the front suspension. Because on these Lotus 7 frames, the weak point in the chassis, besides a bunch of other places, is from the front suspension to the safety cell. Because there's just one, there's not very many bars. There's bottom bar, crossbar right here over to the top, and then the top bar. And those, three, they're not doing very much. So coming around to the back, it's about the same as a Lotus 7 until we get to here, and then I've added a bunch of stuff. Well, not a whole bunch, but we take this out here because this car's a lot longer than a Lotus 7. It's not going to end right there. It can go pretty much as far as I want. But this is all space for the fuel tank, and I'm trying to go for a 20-gallon fuel tank in here. So it'll sit in right there, and then we have mounts for a roll hoop, but turns out the roof is actually wider than that, so I might need to extend these out a little bit further to get the roll hoop close with the roof, have it come up through there. Otherwise it's sitting in kind of weird. Then we have a Ford 7.5 inch from an S197. It's not ideal. I actually have an 8-inch, it's hard to see over there, but I have an 8-inch to go in it at some point. For now I have it set up for the 7.5 inch. I can get it running and moving on that. It's an open diff, so it won't be great. And it does make the car pretty wide in the back. It's 76 inches total width in the rear. Of course you can change that with wheel offset. These are C4 Corvette wheels with a 2-inch adapter on them, which is a lot. And then here we have a 4-link rear end with a panhard, as you probably saw, but I have this sort of kind of hoping it would strengthen the chassis and do a little bit in side impact protection. with 18 gauge steel, wrapped up on the bottom there, and then this piece in here to sort of solidify it with a top sill panel. And then that gives you this space right here for the door to come in and seal. I need to bring it up around there as well. And then as far as these are the Beetle. This is a 70s, early 70s Beetle with a flat window for the roof, because I wanted something to start with on the body, so I knew where I was going with it. But it does sit, you got this line right here, and it doesn't really show in the video, but this sits a lot lower than this does. And so it's not, the body line doesn't really work out with that. So I might have to remake the doors and then keep the vent windows and move them up and take up some of that space and make that work. And then kind of see the body line here. It's normal Beetle till about here. Then they've been cut and channeled. And then all this flows back a lot better. I'll give you a better shot of that. So, coming around to the front again, it's set up to have a 1952 or 50s Chevy truck headlight fit in there. I need to make the mounting surface that it'll bolt to in there, but that side's about set up, and then I'm trying to get this side in a similar position before I finish up the front grille area and then figure out how it's going to mount to everything. But it's coming together. Using all these scrap panels, you can't shape big pieces at a time because you work with what you got. So make all these sort of small panels that come together, and I'm learning a lot as you go, so probably be a lot better by the time I get to the back. This was the first panel. This is the second panel I did, and then did the whole fender over there, and now I'm back onto this side, sort of getting these all shaped in. Using a wireframe buck, which is 1/4 inch cold rolled steel, and it's pretty easy to work with. It's fairly strong, and you can see these are just some horns. I figured I'd mount them up, but this is an E36 radiator, just a cheapo one, and I have this structure going on right here. It's way overkill for holding the radiator because it's 1 inch square tube with, I think, 3/4 inch bracing, and it's braced on both sides. It's designed to have this come off right here and have a toe point, because if I need to reinforce these tabs, but if I bring this out over here on both sides and then tie those up to the top there, I'll have a good toe point coming into the grill. Sort of thought process on that. The engine is of course the one you see I was saying, but it's going to have a Megasquirt MS3X with coil on plug, sequential injection, and ignition. It kind of overkill because it's going to have low boost. It's going to go 8 psi, which is, on another car I measured that at 420 foot-pounds and 380 wheel horsepower. Sort of learn a lot as you go. So this pedal system is not great. It sits a lot higher than it needs to, and I think I was screwing around thinking I needed to get the pedal ratios by having this set up, because I couldn't put these guys right here, so I had to mount them high, or over the pivot point, and because of the steering column, and well, now they're really high. It's kind of a goofy looking system, but it does work. I have functioning brakes. The e-brake is not set up, but hard lines are in. They need to actually be fixed in place, so they're just out there wobbling right now, but they function. And this is what I'm going for in the interior. I haven't gotten too far in it, but started mocking up the dash. This is a Chevy Sprinter window, like the metal cutout when you put in a glass one. And then I'll show you the inside a little bit. So there's not a lot of space in there. Trying to get in, you kind of put a leg in and then just fall. I'm trying to go with like a vintage Smith gauges. These, of course, aren't real gauges, but that's the idea. We'll have the water temperature and oil pressure and all that jazz over there, and then turn signals, high beam, and then check engine lights or something. Yep. Not a lot of room in there for the pedals, but about 9 inches. Hard to see. And there's only about 17 for your body, but these Lotuses are really small anyway, or the Locost. The 350Z transmission is really long, and this one doesn't have a shortened shifter. They have systems that bring this, move it up to like right here, so you have much better movement like that. But for now, it's not too bad. You just move a little bit further back. And steering is functional, but the steering wheel is tiny. The tires are really wide. The car is kind of heavy. And I also have their SC400, knuckles, so they've been modified for extra steering angle, which means they're harder to turn as well, but they do turn a lot. Anyway, there's that. In here, it's been reinforced a little bit more than a normal Lotus. Not necessarily along these are normal, but double wide on the top. These are 2 stacked together and then stitch welded, and an extra beam, because on the other side is the 4-link. These are the bolts on the other side. The 4-link mounts up right there. Then a bar across right here, so I was thinking a lot about side impact protection. The vehicle's coming in right here, kind of reinforce that joint, and then across. And then down in here, the transmission's huge, so this panel didn't get to go across as one. It had to come out a little bit and then forward. And so that's reinforced with 3/4 inch, kind of triangulated in from the side over here. Still need to put a floor in it, obviously, but that's how that's going. I got wirings all over the place, but it is set up to go. I basically plug this in to a battery, plug the mega squirt in here, and that's set. And getting out is also not easy. Yeah. So that's sort of the car after a couple of years. Didn't really know anything when I started it about fabrication, and it shows on a lot of things, but it's been good working on it, learning a lot, and should hopefully have it running sometime in another year or two. See if I can actually get this in frame here. All right. Thanks for listening to me babble for a little while. Have a good day.